The way we think about it is we have two engines. One engine is conventional oil and gas, and the other is the renewables. A little bit simplified. And you need in this transition to keep these engines balanced. And I think what we have seen last year, but it has been coming for a while, that the conventional engine is starved of capital and taxed at random, which will make it even more difficult to keep that engine going. And of course this transition is important, but will take time because it's a very big energy system. And if we don't watch out, and that's happening, this conventional energy, which we still need, will be unaffordable and it will not be enough. And that's what we see right now. So that's one engine. The second engine is the renewable energy, which clearly which we need to accelerate even more than we do right now to replace the decrease in conventional energy. But to do that, electrification is not enough. So if you want to decarbonize heavy industries, big trucks, etc., you can't electrify that. It's not efficient. You can do everything, but it's not efficient. So we really need molecules. And I think especially the oil and gas industry is very good at producing molecules, handling it, selling it, etc. So we need biofuels, sustainable aviation fuels, biomethane, hydrogen, big time hydrogen. And we can do it. These are all products we know how to make, we are making them. But I think we also have to say we have to step up and do this much more large scale.
Well, I'm coming back to the trilemma that I mentioned before. Everybody wants to go clean, everybody knows that, but it has to be reliable and secure. You cannot have rolling blackouts in California. I'm also German, so when you're running out of natural gas, you're really scared. So it has to be reliable. And it has to be affordable. There are some data points out there that 70% recognize climate change is important, 80% thinks government should do something about it, 50% are willing to pay a dollar more per electricity, and very few are willing to pay what it takes. So finding the right balance between reliability and affordability while going clean, that's probably the hardest challenge. And there's no silver bullet for that.
As Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Group, we have been focusing on carbon capture technology and also the use of clean hydrogen, blue and green. And looking at these issues, one thing is that we, for the carbon capture, we think that all the projects are going on. And what we need is a clear, I think, strategy for storage or usage of such kind of things, and this is going to be make shape within this year, I hope. And for the hydrogen, I also mentioned that because of we were working for several European hydrogen projects, but because of the inflation of the energy cost in Europe, people are having second thoughts about how to face this challenge of high energy cost. This means that I think we would be looking into not only Europe but also I would say the surrounding countries of how we're going to make produce competitively the hydrogen, and how we're going to transport such kind of clean energy to the market. This is what we have to think about. In the Middle East, plans about blue hydrogen is moving, but when blue hydrogen is delivered to the market in Europe, for example, the cost is still a problem. And we see that transportation and storage of hydrogen, as well as the infrastructure, this is building the infrastructure is going to be a challenge in order to deliver the competitive hydrogen, competitive clean hydrogen to the market. So one other thing is that then we switch a little bit about how we think about transporting such kind of clean energy. And one example I could say is that, for example, hydrogen can be used for direct reduction process of steel making. And for example, if you use green hydrogen in a steel plant where in the Middle East or Africa, where the green hydrogen is very competitive, and you can make pellets, steel pellets, and transport it to the electric arc furnaces near to the demand center. This could be another way of transporting hydrogen built in this kind of products. Yeah, and we're looking forward to also exploring such kind of pathways in order to reach energy transition.
And a lot of the problems, I wrote 4 books on hydrogen, a lot of the problems with hydrogen is how do you transport it, how do you bank it, how do you insure it, and that's why you can produce hydrogen and discover no one's going to buy it. So what we're actually doing is converting hydrogen into e-methane. This creates a product that's immediately usable, bankable, and can use the existing infrastructure. So this is hopefully going to bring closer the world of molecules and the world of electrons. So I think 2023 can be the year when the first big projects get taken to FID, and where we can really try to close this gap between action and ambition that I think this morning everyone was referring to.
So I think there's the notion that energy security is fundamental, affordability is fundamental, and access to energy, but how do we ensure energy sovereignty? So as a country in Colombia, and us being largely owned by government, how do we ensure that the molecules and the electrons that we actually are using in Colombia are produced from Colombia? So we have our own gas, our own electricity, and in that sense, I see sovereignty is quite relevant. And I think the war in Europe has shown us that countries do need as much as they can to depend on themselves. And in that sense, we're looking at things like, for example, repurposing infrastructure. Can we use right-of-ways for electric lines, high voltage electric lines, or right-of-ways for pipelines and product lines that we can put in a faster way, in a way that actually allows us to have the affordability or the availability of those products, be them molecules or being electrons, at the right time.
The moment you have, of course, feed-in tariffs for solar or wind, then you can finance it. Then everyone wants to finance it. That's easy when you have a 20-year project. But when you don't have that, when you have to make a market, be it in the molecules, in biofuels, biomethane, hydrogen, and you don't have these tariffs yet, it's more challenging. And I think that's something we should focus on. Because if we want to be successful in decarbonizing, then we have to address that big, heavy industry component also. Because that's where the beef is, to decarbonize.
We do see a bit of a disconnect between the pledge to help finance the transition and then reality. And in some instances, it's, look, if you're involved with oil and gas directly, we cannot finance you, even though it's going to be a transition. So some of our projects, if they're somehow linked to the traditional oil and gas businesses, it could be more difficult to finance. Good news, we produce a lot of revenue and a lot of capability from within. We've been able to tap the markets in terms of bonds and loans from banks. So that's working well, but I do believe there needs to be a connection between what some of the financial sector is pledging to and some of the reality down on the ground.